The Eastwood Women's Correctional Facility stood like a concrete fortress against the gray Philadelphia skyline. Rain tapped against the windows of Detective Marcus Silva's unmarked sedan as he pulled into the visitors' parking lot, watching the Sisters of Charity file through security. It was Wednesday, visitation day, a routine as predictable as the changing of seasons. Marcus nodded to Sister Agnes, the elderly nun who had been leading these weekly visits for over 15 years. Her weathered face broke into a smile as she recognized him. "Detective Silva, checking up on us again?" she called, her voice carrying across the parking lot. "Just doing my rounds, sister," he replied, stepping out of his car. "How are the ladies today?" "Faithful as always," she said, gesturing to the 5 other nuns behind her. Marcus recognized most of them. Sisters Catherine, Bernadette, and Monica had been coming for years. Sister Ruth was relatively new, having joined 6 months ago. The last one, partially obscured behind Sister Monica's tall frame, he couldn't place. Inside, Warden Patricia Harding greeted them in the administrative wing. "Sister Agnes, always a pleasure. We've got a full house in the chapel today." As the nuns were escorted through security, Marcus lingered, watching the careful process. Each sister removed her simple cross necklace, placed her Bible in the tray, and walked through the metal detector. The routine was methodical, practiced. "You're hovering again, Detective," Warden Harding said, coffee cup in hand. "Don't you have actual crimes to solve?" Marcus smiled. "Just checking in. These visits mean a lot to the inmates." "They do," she agreed, her expression softening, "especially for those who don't get other visitors. Speaking of which, how's the Brookside case coming along?" "Dead ends everywhere," Marcus admitted. 2 months and we're no closer to finding who killed those nurses." As they spoke, the facility's intercom crackled to life. "All staff report to stations. Weather advisory update." Warden Harding sighed. "That storm's getting worse. They're saying it could flood the East Wing. We might need to move inmates if it keeps up." Marcus glanced toward the chapel where the nuns had disappeared. Something about today felt different. A subtle shift in the air that his years as a detective had taught him to notice. Just as he was about to leave, his phone buzzed. A text from his partner about another case. "Duty calls," he said, turning toward the exit. "Always does," the warden replied, unaware that in less than 3 hours, her carefully ordered facility would be thrown into chaos. The chapel at Eastwood was filled to capacity that afternoon. 62 women in identical beige jumpsuits sat in neat rows, their faces a canvas of emotions. Hope, desperation, boredom, devotion. Among them sat Vanessa Reed, inmate number 4872, convicted 3 years ago for a double homicide she maintained she didn't commit. From the back row, Vanessa observed Sister Agnes leading the prayer service. Her gaze, however, kept drifting to the youngest nun, the one she didn't recognize. There was something about her movements, calculated and precise, that seemed out of place. As the service continued, the facility's lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. Outside, the storm intensified, rain lashing against the reinforced windows. In the administrative wing, Warden Harding received the alert she'd been dreading. The nearby Schuylkill River was rising rapidly, threatening the prison's electrical systems and lower levels. Emergency protocols needed to be initiated. Back in the chapel, Sister Agnes was just concluding the service when Officer Jenkins entered, whispering something to Sister Monica. The nun's face grew serious as she nodded and turned to address the inmates. "Ladies, due to the storm, we're being asked to conclude early today. Let's finish with a brief prayer for safety." As the inmates bowed their heads, Vanessa kept her eyes open, watching the unfamiliar nun carefully fold a small piece of paper and slip it into her sleeve. When the prayer ended, the inmates began filing out row by row, escorted by corrections officers back to their cells. The facility's alarm system blared suddenly. 3 short bursts, followed by a long tone, the evacuation signal. "Ladies, remain calm and follow officer instructions." Warden Harding's voice came over the intercom. "This is a precautionary measure due to potential flooding in the East Wing." Chaos erupted despite the structured protocols. Officers scrambled to organize the inmates, while the nuns were quickly ushered toward the exit by a flustered Officer Jenkins. "Sisters, this way please. We need to get all visitors out immediately." In the confusion, Vanessa noticed the unfamiliar nun deftly move to the center of the group, head bowed, hands clasped in front of her. Something about her posture had changed. She was now the perfect mirror of Sister Monica's humble stance. As the nuns were hurried through security and toward the main entrance, the unfamiliar sister kept her face downturned, hidden partially by her habit. The emergency protocols meant the usual careful exit screening was abbreviated. A quick count of visitors rather than individual verification. 6 Sisters of Charity, exiting main entrance. Officer Jenkins called into his radio as he held the door open against the howling wind. Outside, the nuns hurried to their van, habits whipping in the gale. As they pulled away from the facility, Sister Agnes did a quick head count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She counted, her voice trailing off as her brow furrowed in confusion. "Where's Sister Ruth?" Detective Marcus Silva was halfway back to the precinct when the call came in. His wipers struggled against the deluge as he answered. "Silva here." "Detective, it's Warden Harding. We've got a situation at Eastwood." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. The flooding? Worse. During the evacuation, there was confusion. The Sisters of Charity were escorted out, but they're reporting that one of their members, Sister Ruth, is missing. Meanwhile, we've completed our inmate count and... She paused, her voice tense. Inmate Alessandra Diaz is unaccounted for. Marcus immediately pulled a U-turn, flipping on his lights. Diaz, the Black Widow, the same. 3 counts of first-degree murder, expert in disguise and deception. "Jesus," Marcus muttered. "You think she walked out with the nuns?" "It's looking that way, but here's where it gets complicated. We have 6 nuns who entered and 6 who left. If Diaz left disguised as a nun, then one of the real sisters is still inside." Marcus finished. "I'm 10 minutes out." By the time Marcus arrived, Eastwood was in lockdown. The rain had subsided to a steady drizzle, but the damage was done. The East Wing had taken on water, and the evacuation had scattered the facility's usual order. In the administrative conference room, the 5 Sisters of Charity sat in a row, their faces drawn with worry. Sister Agnes rose when Marcus entered. "Detective Silva, thank God you're here. Sister Ruth is missing, and these people won't let us back in to find her." Marcus approached, keeping his voice calm. "Sister Agnes, I need you to tell me everything about this morning. Any detail might help." Sister Agnes described their arrival, the service, and the chaotic evacuation. "We were rushed out so quickly, it wasn't until we were in the van that I realized Sister Ruth wasn't with us." "And the 6th person who left with you?" The nuns exchanged glances. "We assumed it was Ruth," Sister Catherine said softly. "It wasn't until we were outside that we realized she kept her head down," Sister Monica added. "Stayed in the middle of our group." Marcus nodded, processing the information. "Tell me about Sister Ruth. How long has she been with your order?" 3 years, Sister Agnes replied. "She's young, only 26, quiet, devout." "I need a photo." Sister Agnes produced her phone, showing Marcus a picture from their community newsletter. Sister Ruth had a heart-shaped face, gentle eyes, and a small scar near her right eyebrow. Marcus studied the image, then turned to Warden Harding. "We need to search the facility for Sister Ruth, and we need an APB on Alessandra Diaz immediately." As officers mobilized, Marcus returned to the nuns. "One more question. Did any of you notice anything unusual about inmate Alessandra Diaz during your visits?" Sister Bernadette spoke up. "She never attended our services, said she didn't believe in redemption." Marcus frowned. "Then how did she know enough about your routines to execute this plan?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. Marcus felt the familiar tug in his gut, the sense that they were missing something crucial. He pulled Warden Harding aside. "I need to see the security footage from the chapel, and I need it now." The rain had stopped by the time Alessandra Diaz reached the bus station. She'd already discarded the nun's habit in a gas station bathroom, changing into clothes she'd hidden months ago in a maintenance closet near the chapel, part of a plan she'd been crafting meticulously for over a year. Now, dressed in jeans and a gray hoodie, with her dark hair tucked under a baseball cap, she blended perfectly with the evening commuters. The storm had disrupted schedules, creating exactly the kind of chaos she thrived in, confusion that allowed her to disappear into the background. At the ticket counter, she purchased a one-way fare to Pittsburgh, paid in cash. Her voice was soft, unremarkable, with just a hint of a New England accent that hadn't been there an hour ago. "Nasty weather we're having," the ticket agent commented. "Biblical," Alessandra replied with a smile that never reached her eyes. Inside Eastwood, the search for Sister Ruth continued. Cell by cell, room by room, officers swept the facility. In the security office, Marcus sat with his eyes fixed on monitor screens, reviewing footage from before the evacuation. "There," he said, pointing to a frame. "Stop it there." The technician froze the image, showing the chapel during the prayer service. Marcus leaned closer. "Can you zoom in on the back row, the inmate on the far left?" The image zoomed and enhanced, revealing Vanessa Reed watching the service. Her attention focused not on Sister Agnes at the front, but on the nuns seated to the side. "Who is she?" Marcus asked. Warden Harding consulted her tablet. "Vanessa Reed. Serving 25 to life for double homicide. Model prisoner, works in the laundry. I need to talk to her. Now." 20 minutes later, Vanessa Reed sat across from Marcus in the interview room, her expression guarded. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said before Marcus could speak. "I'm not saying you did, Ms. Reed. I just need information about what you saw today." Vanessa studied him, then nodded slowly. "Something was off with one of the nuns, the younger one." "Sister Ruth?" "No, not her. There was another one I hadn't seen before. She was watching everything, not praying, watching." Marcus leaned forward. "Could this have been Alessandra Diaz?" "Diaz?" Vanessa's eyes widened. "The Black Widow? No way. This woman was already dressed as a nun when she came in." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "Are you saying someone impersonating a nun entered the facility this morning?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. And during the evacuation," Vanessa paused, her brow furrowing. "I lost track of her, but I did see Sister Ruth get separated from the group. Some officers took her toward the administrative wing." Marcus was already on his feet. "Show me the entry logs again," he said to the warden. "I need to see exactly who came in this morning." The log showed 6 members of the Sisters of Charity entering at 1:15 p.m. The security footage confirmed 6 women in habits passing through the metal detectors. "Something's not adding up," Marcus muttered. If Diaz was already disguised as a seventh nun, and 6 nuns left during evacuation, then the realization hit him just as his phone rang. It was the officer he'd sent to the Sisters of Charity convent to verify information. "Detective, we've got a problem," the officer said. "The convent only has 5 active sisters currently working with the prison outreach program. Sister Ruth is real, but she's been on a retreat in Maryland for the past week." Marcus closed his eyes briefly, the pieces falling into place. So, the Sister Ruth who entered this morning was already an imposter. "And she's still in the building," Warden Harding concluded, her face pale. "No," Marcus said grimly. "She's Alessandra Diaz. Which means the nun who's missing isn't missing at all. The real Sister Ruth was never here. Then who's the 6th woman who left with the nuns?" Marcus turned back to Vanessa Reed. "You said you saw officers taking someone toward the administrative wing during the evacuation, not toward the exits. Who was it?" Vanessa nodded slowly. "It was one of the inmates. Jenkins and another officer grabbed her. She was shouting that there was a mistake, that she wasn't supposed to go that way." "What did she look like?" Marcus pressed. "Tall, thin, dark hair, like most of us in here, but she had this way of standing, kind of elegant, you know. Some of the other inmates called her the Duchess because of it." Marcus turned to Warden Harding. "Who does that sound like?" The warden's face drained of color. "Inmate Caroline Winters, sentenced for embezzlement 3 years ago. She works in the chapel, helping to set up her services." "Let me guess," Marcus said. "She bears a passing resemblance to Alessandra Diaz. Enough that in the chaos, with the nun's habit." Warden Harding didn't finish the sentence. "We need to find Caroline Winters," Marcus said, already moving toward the door. "And we need to alert all agencies that the woman we're looking for isn't Sister Ruth. It's inmate Caroline Winters, who's been kidnapped by Alessandra Diaz and is now dressed as her." Caroline Winters huddled in the corner of the abandoned warehouse, her wrists raw from the plastic zip ties. The nun's habit she'd been forced to wear was torn and dirty now, a mockery of the sacred garment. 3 hours had passed since the escape. 3 hours since Alessandra Diaz had held a sharpened toothbrush to her throat in the chapel storage room and whispered, "You're my ticket out of here, Duchess." Now Diaz was gone, leaving Caroline alone in this damp, cold building somewhere on the outskirts of Philadelphia. Before leaving, Diaz had made the threat clear. "If you try to escape before I'm safely away, my associates will ensure you don't live to testify." Caroline had no doubt Diaz meant it. The woman hadn't earned the nickname Black Widow for nothing. 3 dead husbands, all wealthy, all with ironclad prenuptial agreements that would have left Diaz with nothing in a divorce. Until they mysteriously died, making her a very wealthy widow. A sound outside made Caroline freeze. Footsteps. A door creaking open. She pressed herself further into the corner, praying it wasn't one of Diaz's associates coming to eliminate the loose end she represented. Across town, Marcus stood in Caroline Winters' cell, examining the sparse personal items for any clue to where Diaz might have taken her. The cell was meticulously organized. Books alphabetized, toiletries lined up precisely, bed made with hospital corners. She was a financial executive before her conviction, Warden Harding explained. Embezzled millions from client accounts. But she's been a model prisoner. Works in the chapel, the library, teaches financial literacy to other inmates. Marcus picked up a small leather-bound journal from the desk. Has she had any visitors recently? Her sister comes once a month, besides that, just her lawyer. flipping through the journal, Marcus found mostly reflections on daily prison life, until a page from 3 weeks ago caught his eye. Sister A asked about my family again today. Showed interest in my sister Emily's graphic design business. Said she might have work for her. Feels good to make a positive connection after all this time. "Who is Sister A?" Marcus asked. Warden Harding frowned. "I don't think that's one of the Sisters of Charity. They go by their full names here." Marcus continued reading, finding more entries. "Sister A brought me a book on meditation today. Said it helped her through dark times. Told Sister A about Emily's visit. She seemed very interested in the details of her life. Just being friendly, I suppose." The final entry from just 2 days ago read, "Sister A needed help organizing the chapel storage for today's service. Said I was the only one she trusted to do it right. First time I've felt valued in 3 years." Marcus closed the journal. "I need to talk to Emily Winters immediately, and I need everything you have on visitors to this facility in the past 6 months who aren't on our regular lists. Someone has been coming here posing as a nun, but not with the Sisters of Charity." An hour later, Marcus sat across from Emily Winters in the precinct interview room. The family resemblance to Caroline was striking. Same dark hair, same poised posture, though Emily's face showed the strain of the past few hours. "I don't understand," she said, her voice tight with fear. "You're saying someone kidnapped my sister during the prison evacuation? How is that possible?" "Ms. Winters, we believe your sister was targeted specifically by Alessandra Diaz. Has Caroline ever mentioned someone called Sister A in her letters or during your visits?" Emily frowned. "No, never. She talks about the Sisters of Charity sometimes, but never individuals." "What about your graphic design business? Has anyone approached you recently about work? Someone you didn't know before?" Emily's eyes widened. "Yes, actually. A woman contacted me about designing materials for a women's shelter. Said she was referred by someone who knew my work. We met for coffee about 3 weeks ago." "What was her name?" Andrea Summers. She showed me photos of the shelter, talked about their mission, seemed legitimate." Marcus slid a photo across the table, a mugshot of Alessandra Diaz. "Is this her?" Emily stared at the image, then slowly nodded. "Yes, but her hair was different. Lighter, and she wore glasses." "Did she ask you personal questions? About your routine, where you live?" Yes. We talked about my work from home setup. She seemed interested in my daily routine." Emily's voice faltered as realization dawned. "Was she planning something? We believe Diaz was gathering information about you through your sister. Information she could use to find you if needed." "But why?" Emily asked, fear evident in her voice. "Insurance," Marcus said grimly. "If her escape plan went wrong, she needed leverage. Someone Caroline cared about." Emily's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then froze, her face draining of color. "What is it?" Marcus asked, instantly alert. With a shaking hand, Emily turned the phone toward him. On the screen was a text from an unknown number. "I have what you want. You have what I need. 24 hours to arrange the transfer. Further instructions to follow. Tell the police and the Duchess swims with the fishes." Attached was a photo of Caroline, still in the torn nun's habit, a copy of today's newspaper beside her terrified face. "She has my sister," Emily whispered, "and now she's coming for me." The precinct buzzed with activity as the task force assembled in the conference room. Photos of Alessandra Diaz, Caroline Winters, and the text message to Emily covered the whiteboard. Marcus stood at the front, addressing the team of detectives and officers. Alessandra Diaz, known as the Black Widow, escaped Eastwood during yesterday's evacuation by impersonating a nun. She kidnapped inmate Caroline Winters as part of her escape plan, and is now using her as leverage to extract something from Caroline's sister, Emily. "What does she want?" asked Detective Rodriguez, a seasoned veteran of the department's kidnapping task force. "That's what we need to figure out," Marcus replied. "Emily Winters claims she has no idea, but there's something we're missing." Marcus turned to the timeline they'd constructed. Diaz began planning this months ago. She established a relationship with Caroline Winters, gathered information about her sister Emily, and even contacted Emily directly under a false identity. "That's a lot of work for an escape," Rodriguez noted. "Most inmates who try to break out just want freedom." This level of planning suggests something else. "Exactly," Marcus agreed. "This isn't just about escaping prison. Diaz wants something specific from Emily Winters, and it's worth the risk of kidnapping and extortion to get it." While the team strategized, a tech analyst entered with a file. "Detective Silva, we've got something on Emily Winters' financial background." Marcus opened the file, scanning the contents. Emily Winters worked for Meridian Financial from 2018 to 2021, the same company her sister Caroline embezzled from. "That can't be coincidence," Rodriguez said. "It gets better," the analyst continued. "Emily worked in the graphic design department, creating marketing materials, but she also had access to the client database for creating personalized communications." Marcus felt the pieces beginning to align. The same client database her sister used to identify wealthy targets for embezzlement. "We need to bring Emily back in," Rodriguez said. "She knows more than she's telling us." As the team mobilized, Marcus's phone rang. It was the warden at Eastwood. "Detective, we found something in the chapel storage room. A mobile phone, carefully hidden behind some prayer books. It's not prison issue." "Diaz's communication line," Marcus concluded. "I need every call and text from that phone analyzed immediately." 30 minutes later, Emily Winters sat across from Marcus again, her composure noticeably fractured. "You worked at Meridian Financial with your sister," Marcus stated, laying out the company records. "You failed to mention that in our previous conversation." Emily's eyes darted to the door, as if calculating an escape route. "It wasn't relevant." "I think it is. Your sister was convicted of embezzling from client accounts she had access to. Accounts you helped create marketing materials for. I had nothing to do with Caroline's crimes," Emily insisted, her voice rising. "I was interviewed extensively during her trial. I was cleared. Yet, Alessandra Diaz, a woman convicted of murdering 3 wealthy husbands for their money, is now specifically targeting you. Why would she do that unless you have something she wants? Something related to money?" Emily's composure cracked. "She wants the account numbers," she whispered, barely audible. "What account numbers?" "The offshore accounts, the ones Caroline set up. The authorities never found them all." Emily looked up, tears streaming down her face. "There's still money out there, millions. Caroline told me about them before she was arrested. Made me memorize the access information in case something happened to her. Why would she do that?" "Insurance," Emily said, echoing Marcus's earlier word. Caroline knew what she was doing was wrong. Knew she might get caught. She wanted to make sure I was taken care of if the worst happened. "And now, Diaz wants those account numbers," Marcus concluded. "How did she find out about them?" "Caroline must have told her, or hinted at it. My sister always had a way of leveraging information to gain protection. In prison, she would have needed allies. So, Diaz orchestrated this entire escape to get access to millions in hidden funds," Marcus said, the full picture finally emerging. and she's using your sister as leverage to make you give up the information. Emily nodded miserably. What do I do? If I give Diaz what she wants, she'll kill Caroline. If I don't, we set a trap, Marcus said decisively. When Diaz contacts you with instructions for the exchange, we'll be ready. As they formulated a plan, Marcus's partner burst into the room. We've got a location on Caroline Winters. The tech team traced calls from that burner phone at the prison to a warehouse in Port Richmond. SWAT is mobilizing now. Marcus stood, adrenaline surging. Emily, stay here with Detective Rodriguez. If Diaz contacts you, stall her. Tell her you need time to access the information. What if you're wrong? Emily asked, fear evident in her voice. What if she's not at this warehouse? Then we keep looking, Marcus promised. We won't stop until we find your sister. As Marcus headed for the door, Emily called after him. Detective? There's something else you should know. The access codes I memorized, they change automatically every 72 hours. Today is the reset day. If Diaz knows that, she'll be desperate to get the new codes, Marcus finished, which means Caroline is in immediate danger. The race against time had just become even more urgent. The warehouse district in Port Richmond was a maze of abandoned buildings and active shipping operations. As SWAT teams positioned themselves around the target location, Marcus reviewed the thermal imaging scans from their surveillance equipment. One heat signature inside, the SWAT commander reported. Northeast corner, ground floor. Not moving much. Could be our kidnap victim. Any sign of Diaz? Marcus asked. Negative. If she's been here, she's gone now. Marcus studied the building's layout. She wouldn't leave Caroline alone without some kind of insurance. Check for booby traps, remote surveillance, anything that would alert Diaz if we move in. The team deployed a micro-drone through a broken window, its camera feeding images back to their command post. The warehouse interior was largely empty, save for some abandoned equipment and in the corner, a figure in tattered clothing. That's her, Marcus confirmed, recognizing Caroline Winters' face from her prison photos. She's restrained, but appears conscious. The drone continued its sweep, revealing something that made Marcus's blood run cold. Beneath Caroline's chair was what appeared to be an improvised explosive device with wires running to her restraints. Pull the drone back, he ordered. We need EOD here now. While they waited for the explosive ordnance disposal unit, Marcus's phone rang. It was Rodriguez. Diaz just made contact with Emily. She's demanding the account information within the hour. Says if Emily doesn't comply, she'll watch the fireworks from a safe distance. She's rigged the warehouse, Marcus confirmed. Tell Emily to stall. Say she needs to access a secure computer to retrieve the current codes. Already did. Diaz has agreed to give her 2 hours, but not a minute more. The EOD team arrived 15 minutes later. Their assessment was grim. It's crude, but effective, the lead technician reported after sending in their specialized robot. Motion sensors on the restraints. If the victim moves too much, or if the restraints are cut without disarming the device first, it detonates. There's also a remote trigger. Diaz can set it off from anywhere within about half a mile. Can you disarm it? Yes, but we'll need time. And we need the victim to remain absolutely still. Marcus made a decision. I'm going in. I need to keep Caroline calm while you work. Despite protests from the SWAT commander, Marcus donned a lightweight protective vest and earpiece. Following the EOD team's guidance, he entered the warehouse through a side door, moving slowly toward the frightened woman in the corner. Caroline Winters, he called softly when he was within earshot. I'm Detective Marcus Silva. I need you to remain very still. There's an explosive device under your chair. Caroline's eyes widened in terror, but she managed to keep her voice steady. I know. She showed it to me before she left. Said if I tried to escape, or if anyone tried to rescue me. We're going to get you out of here, Marcus promised, kneeling a safe distance away. But I need you to tell me everything you know about what Diaz is planning. She wants the offshore account information, Caroline said, her voice barely above a whisper. Accounts I set up years ago. The authorities never found them. Your sister told us about them, Marcus confirmed. But why would Diaz think you'd share that information with her? Caroline's expression shifted, shame crossing her features. Because I did, at least partially. I was trying to secure protection in prison. Diaz controls many of the guards through blackmail. I offered her a percentage if she'd ensure my safety. But you didn't give her everything, Marcus guessed. Number just enough to prove the accounts existed. The full access requires biometric authentication. Emily's and mine together. That's why she needed us both. In Marcus's earpiece, the EOD technician gave an update. We've identified the trigger mechanism. Starting disarming procedure now. Keep her talking, keep her calm. Caroline, I need to know, is there anyone else working with Diaz? Anyone who might be with her now? Caroline's face paled further. Officer Jenkins. He's been helping her for months. Smuggling in civilian clothes information about the facility's protocols. He was supposed to be working the gate the day of her escape, but the storm changed everything. Jenkins, Marcus repeated, the name clicking into place. The officer who had escorted the nuns out during the evacuation. Where would they go? Does Diaz have a safe house? She never told me specifics, but she mentioned a place near the water. Somewhere she could watch the sunrise over the Atlantic once she had the money. Marcus relayed this information to the team outside, while the EOD technician guided their robot in disarming the explosive. Almost there, the technician reported. 2 more wires to disconnect. Suddenly, Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Rodriguez. Diaz on move, spotted near Penn's Landing. Bolo issued. We need to hurry, Marcus urged. I think she's heading for the coast. Got it, the EOD tech confirmed. Device is disarmed. You can remove her restraints now. With careful movements, Marcus cut through the zip ties binding Caroline to the chair. As she stood on shaky legs, he supported her toward the exit. Detective, she said as they neared the door. There's something else you should know. The accounts aren't just mine. Some of that money belongs to Diaz's dead husbands. She's been looking for it for years. That's why she was so interested when I mentioned offshore accounts. So this isn't just about the money you hid, Marcus realized. It's about recovering her own illicit funds. Yes, and she's killed for far less. Outside, Caroline was immediately taken to a waiting ambulance while Marcus joined the SWAT commander. We've got officers heading to Penn's Landing now, the commander reported. But it's a big area. She'll need privacy, but also a view of the water, Marcus reasoned. And a secure internet connection to access the accounts once she has the information. There's a string of luxury short-term rentals along the waterfront, one of the officers suggested. Perfect for someone who needs to disappear quickly after. Check recent bookings, Marcus ordered. Look for the name Andrea Summers. That's the alias she used with Emily Winters. As the team mobilized, Marcus's phone rang again. It was Emily. She's demanding a video call, Emily said, panic evident in her voice. Says she wants to see me enter the access codes in real time. We've rescued your sister, Marcus told her. Caroline is safe. Now we need your help to catch Diaz. How? Agree to the video call. Our tech team will trace it, and we need you to keep her talking while we close in. There was a pause, then Emily's voice came back, stronger. I'll do it for Carolyn. We'll keep you safe, Marcus promised. both of you." As he ended the call, an officer approached with news. "We found a booking under Andrea Summers at the Waterfront Lofts, Unit 712. Paid in cash, checked in yesterday." "That's her," Marcus said with certainty. "Let's move." The Waterfront Lofts rose against the Philadelphia skyline, its glass facade reflecting the late afternoon sun. From the 12th floor of the adjacent building, Marcus observed Unit 712 through binoculars. The curtains were drawn, but a shadow occasionally passed in front of the window, someone moving inside. "SWAT teams are in position," the commander reported. "We've evacuated the neighboring units quietly. Thermal imaging confirms one person inside target location." Marcus nodded, turning to the laptop where their tech specialist had set up. "Is Emily ready for the video call?" "Yes, sir. She's at the precinct with Detective Rodriguez. We've established a secure line and will be able to trace Diaz's location to confirm it's coming from the apartment." Marcus checked his watch. "Diaz's deadline is in 20 minutes. Let's make the call." On the screen, Emily's tense face appeared as she dialed the number Diaz had provided. After 3 rings, the call connected, revealing Alessandra Diaz. She had transformed herself again. Gone was any trace of the prison inmate or the fake nun. Now she wore an elegant blouse, her hair styled perfectly, looking more like a business executive than a fugitive. "Ms. Winters," Diaz greeted smoothly. "I trust you have what I need?" Emily nodded, her hands visibly trembling. "I do, but I need to know my sister is safe first." Diaz's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Your concern is touching, but unnecessary. Your sister is exactly where she needs to be. She doesn't know we've rescued Caroline," Marcus whispered to the team. "That's good." Emily swallowed hard. "The accounts require dual authentication. I can't complete the transfer without Caroline." A flash of irritation crossed Diaz's face. "That wasn't our arrangement. You have the current access codes, that's all I need." "The system changed," Emily improvised, following the script Marcus had prepared. "After Caroline's arrest, the bank added security measures. I need her biometric verification along with mine." The tech specialist gave Marcus a thumbs up. They had confirmed the call was coming from Unit 712. Diaz leaned closer to the camera, her voice dropping dangerously. "You're stalling, Emily. That's not wise. Perhaps you need motivation? I can detonate that little package your sister is sitting on with one text message." "Wait," Emily cried, genuine fear in her voice. "I'm not lying. Look, I can show you the authentication screen." She turned her laptop to display a banking interface Marcus's team had quickly mocked up. "See? It requires 2 separate verifications." Diaz studied the screen, suspicion evident in her narrowed eyes. "This is a recent change?" "Yes, implemented last month. I can still give you the access codes, but without Caroline's verification, they're useless." For several tense seconds, Diaz was silent, calculating. Marcus held his breath. "Fine," Diaz finally said. "I'll make arrangements to bring Caroline into this conversation. But the clock is still ticking, Emily. You have 1 hour to complete the transfer once I have her." "All units hold positions," Marcus whispered into his radio. "She doesn't know Caroline is free. We can use this." On screen, Emily continued the performance. "How do I know Caroline is even still alive?" "Let me speak to her." "You're not in a position to make demands," Diaz snapped, but then seemed to reconsider. "But I suppose a brief confirmation wouldn't hurt. Let me call my associate." Diaz picked up another phone, dialing a number. After several rings, her expression darkened. No answer. How inconvenient. "Move in now," Marcus ordered into his radio. "She's realizing something's wrong." On screen, Diaz suddenly looked directly at the camera, her expression changing as realization dawned. "You've been wasting my time, Emily. The police are listening, aren't they?" Without waiting for a response, Diaz ended the call. Through his binoculars, Marcos saw movement in the apartment, Diaz rushing toward what must be the bedroom. "All units move in now," he commanded, drawing his weapon and heading for the stairwell. "Subject is aware and likely attempting to flee." The SWAT team breached the apartment door with practiced efficiency, clearing the living room and kitchen in seconds. Marcus followed, weapon raised, moving toward the bedroom where the balcony doors stood open, curtains billowing in the breeze. "Balcony clear," called a SWAT officer. "No sign of subject." Marcus rushed to the railing, scanning the surrounding area. 12 floors up, there were limited escape options. Then he spotted it. A maintenance ladder leading to the roof of the adjacent wing, just within jumping distance. "She's headed for the roof," he shouted, already moving back through the apartment toward the hallway. "Get units to the building's east side." Racing up the stairwell to the roof access, Marcus burst through the door into the fading daylight. The rooftop was vast, scattered with HVAC equipment and water tanks that provided ample cover. "Alessandra Diaz," he called out, moving cautiously forward. "Philadelphia police, there's nowhere to go." A movement to his right caught his attention, a flash of color disappearing behind an air conditioning unit. Marcus approached carefully, aware that Diaz was cornered and dangerous. "It's over, Diaz," he called. "We have Caroline. She told us everything, the accounts, Officer Jenkins, all of it." "Then you know I have nothing to lose," came Diaz's voice, chillingly calm. She emerged from behind the unit, a small pistol in her hand. "Quite the predicament, Detective." Marcus kept his weapon trained on her, maintaining distance. "Drop the gun. You're facing serious charges, but no one's been hurt yet." "Keep it that way." Diaz laughed, a hollow sound. "Such optimism. Do you know what happens to someone like me if I go back to prison, especially after embarrassing the system with my little escape? I'd rather take my chances here. There are officers covering every exit," Marcus informed her. "Helicopters on the way. The only choice you have now is how this ends." For a moment, Diaz seemed to consider this, her eyes calculating as always. Then, without warning, she fired. Not at Marcus, but at a nearby propane tank for the building's rooftop grill. The tank didn't explode as she might have hoped, but the distraction was enough for her to make a dash toward the edge of the roof. Marcus pursued, keeping a careful distance from the damaged tank. "Diaz, stop! There's nowhere to go." At the edge of the roof, Diaz turned, the setting sun silhouetting her figure against the darkening sky. Below, 12 stories down, was the Philadelphia waterfront. "There's always somewhere to go, Detective," she said, her voice carrying on the wind. "That's something I learned long ago." Before Marcus could reach her, she stepped backward off the ledge. He rushed forward, expecting to see her falling body, but instead found her clinging to a maintenance platform 1 floor below, already swinging herself onto a fire escape. "East Side fire escape," Marcus shouted into his radio. "All units converge." The chase continued down the metal stairway, Diaz moving with surprising agility despite her formal attire. As she reached the 3rd floor, she suddenly ducked through an open window into the building. Marcus followed, finding himself in a residential hallway. A startled tenant pointed wordlessly toward the stairwell, where the door was just swinging closed. The stairwell led to the building's lobby, where the evening doorman was sprawled on the floor, dazed but conscious. She went through there, he managed, pointing toward a service exit. Outside, the darkness provided new cover, but also brought more officers converging on the scene. Marcus emerged into an alley behind the building, where signs of a struggle were evident. A knocked-over trash can, a discarded high-heeled shoe. His radio crackled to life. "Detective Silva, we've got her!" Parking garage adjacent to the building, level 2. Marcus sprinted toward the parking structure, arriving to find Diaz surrounded by officers, her elegant appearance now disheveled, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. "It's over, Alessandra," Marcus said, approaching cautiously. Diaz straightened her posture, somehow regaining her dignity even in defeat. "Nothing's ever truly over, Detective. That's the one thing I've learned in all my adventures." As officers moved in to handcuff her, she looked directly at Marcus. "The money's still out there, you know, those accounts, and not just Caroline's. There are others. Millions. Tens of millions." "Is that supposed to tempt me?" Marcus asked. Diaz smiled, that same cold expression that had charmed her way into the lives of 3 wealthy men before she killed them. "Number, just something to think about during those long nights when you're wondering if all this," she gestured to the officers around them, "is really worth it." "Justice is always worth it," Marcus replied, watching as she was led to a waiting police car. "Justice," Diaz repeated, as if tasting the word. Such a quaint concept. We'll see if Caroline Winters feels the same when she's back behind bars with all those inmates who know she helped capture me. As Diaz was placed in the car, Marcus's phone rang. It was Rodriguez. "We've got Jenkins," his partner reported. "Tried to withdraw his savings and buy a bus ticket to Canada. Not the sharpest tool in the shed." "Good," Marcus said, watching the patrol car drive away with Diaz in the back seat. "Any word on Caroline Winters?" "She's cooperating fully, providing details on all the hidden accounts. The DA is considering a reduced sentence in exchange for her testimony against Diaz and Jenkins. And Emily, shaken but safe. She's with her sister now." Marcus nodded, though Rodriguez couldn't see it. "I'll be back at the precinct soon. We've got a lot of paperwork ahead of us." As he ended the call, Marcus looked out over the Philadelphia skyline, lights twinkling in the growing darkness. The case was closed, but Diaz's words lingered in his mind. The money was still out there, and money had a way of causing trouble, even from offshore accounts halfway around the world. But that was a problem for another day. 2 weeks after Alessandra Diaz's recapture, Marcus sat at his desk reviewing the final case reports. The investigation had expanded significantly, with financial crimes units now involved in tracing the complex web of offshore accounts that Carolyn Winters had created. Accounts that contained not only her embezzled funds, but apparently money from Diaz's murdered husbands as well. Officer Jenkins had turned state's evidence, revealing a corruption network within Eastwood that went beyond just helping Diaz escape. 3 more guards had been arrested, and Warden Harding had resigned amid the scandal. Caroline Winters remained in custody, but had been transferred to a minimum security facility in exchange for her cooperation. Emily visited her daily, their relationship seemingly strengthened by the ordeal they'd shared. As for Diaz, she sat in solitary confinement at a maximum security prison upstate, awaiting trial on multiple new charges, including escape, kidnapping, and attempted murder. The case should have felt complete, a successful conclusion to a challenging investigation. Yet something nagged at Marcus, a loose thread he couldn't quite identify. "You're still obsessing," Rodriguez said, dropping a coffee on Marcus's desk. "The case is closed. The bad guys are in jail. What more do you want?" Marcus leaned back in his chair. Something doesn't add up. Diaz is calculating, meticulous, yet her escape plan hinged on a chaotic evacuation that she couldn't have predicted. She got lucky with the storm, Rodriguez shrugged. Diaz doesn't rely on luck, Marcus countered. And why kidnap Caroline? If she just wanted the account information, why not approach Emily directly? She'd already established contact as Andrea Summers. Rodriguez considered this. Maybe she needed leverage? Maybe, Marcus conceded, but he didn't sound convinced. His phone rang. The Financial Crimes Unit. Detective Silva, we found something interesting in those offshore accounts. Can you come down? 20 minutes later, Marcus stood in front of a computer screen displaying complex financial transactions. Agent Pearson from Financial Crimes pointed to a series of transfers. See these? Transfers from Caroline Winter's hidden accounts to shell companies in the Cayman Islands. Started 3 years ago, right after she went to prison. That's odd, Marcus noted. She was already incarcerated. How could she be moving money? Exactly. Someone else had access. We traced the shell companies. Pearson pulled up another screen, and they all lead back to this holding company, Artemis Ventures. Who owns Artemis Ventures? Pearson smiled grimly. On paper, a 76-year-old retiree in Florida who died 2 years ago, but the company's operations are managed by this woman. He pulled up a driver's license photo. Emily Winters. Marcus stared at the image, the pieces rearranging in his mind. Emily had access to the accounts all along. Not just access, she's been actively managing them, making investments, growing the funds. The original embezzled amount was around $12 million. It's now worth over $30 million. But why would Diaz and Caroline go through such an elaborate plan if Emily already had access? Pearson pulled up another document. Because of this. 3 weeks ago, Emily initiated procedures to permanently transfer all funds to a new set of accounts. Accounts that would have locked both Caroline and Diaz out completely. She was cutting them off, Marcus realized. Taking the money for herself. Exactly, and they found out somehow. Marcus thought back to Caroline's journal entries about Sister A asking about Emily's business. Diaz was gathering intelligence. She discovered Emily's betrayal and needed to stop the transfer before it was complete. The transfer was scheduled to finalize today, Pearson confirmed. If Diaz hadn't escaped when she did, she would have lost everything, Marcus finished. And so would Carolyn. Back at the precinct, Marcus requested an immediate interview with Emily Winters. When she arrived, her demeanor was markedly different from their previous meetings. More composed, less the frightened sister and more the competent businesswoman. Ms. Winters, Marcus began once they were seated in the interview room, we need to discuss Artemis Ventures. Emily's expression didn't change, but her posture stiffened slightly. I'm not familiar with that company. That's interesting considering you've been its operational manager for the past 3 years. Marcus placed the financial documents on the table. You've been managing your sister's stolen money all this time, growing it, and recently you tried to cut both her and Diaz out completely. Emily was silent for a long moment, then sighed. You don't understand the position I was in. Caroline didn't just tell me about those accounts before her arrest. She transferred control to me, made me complicit. You could have come forward and gone to prison alongside her, lost everything? Emily shook her head. I made a choice to protect myself. The plan was always for me to manage the money until Caroline was released. But then she met Diaz in prison, started giving her information about our arrangement. So you decided to take the money and run. I decided to protect what was left, Emily corrected. Diaz is a killer. Once she had access to those funds, do you think she would have left either of us alive as witnesses? Marcus studied her, seeing the same calculating intelligence he'd observed in both Caroline and Diaz. The kidnapping, was that real or staged? Oh, it was real, Emily assured him. Diaz needed Caroline to convince me to stop the transfer, but she also needed me to believe Caroline was in danger, or I wouldn't have cooperated. And now, Emily said with resignation, I suppose I'll be joining my sister in prison. That depends on the DA, Marcus told her, and on how cooperative you are with the ongoing financial investigation. As Emily was led away by another officer, Rodriguez approached with a puzzled expression. So let me get this straight. Caroline embezzled the money originally. Emily was managing it, but planning to steal it from her sister. Diaz learned about it through Caroline and orchestrated the escape to stop Emily from cutting them both off. That's the short version, Marcus confirmed. And all three women were playing each other the entire time? While also playing us, Marcus added. Diaz pretended to kidnap Caroline to pressure Emily. Caroline used her kidnapping to negotiate a reduced sentence. And Emily played the innocent sister, while she was actually the one who precipitated the whole crisis by trying to steal the money. Rodriguez shook his head in disbelief. Remind me never to play poker with any of them. The question now, Marcus said, is whether we've uncovered the whole truth, or if there are more layers to this deception. His phone rang again. The warden from the upstate facility holding Alessandra Diaz. Detective Silva, you asked to be notified of any unusual activity regarding prisoner Diaz. She just received her first visitor, a lawyer named James Mercer, representing a client who wishes to remain anonymous. Marcus frowned. Did they discuss anything of note? Nothing specific was overheard, but Diaz seemed pleased after the meeting. More relaxed than we've seen her since her arrival. After ending the call, Marcus did a quick search for James Mercer. The attorney specialized in international finance law and asset recovery. What are you thinking? Rodriguez asked, noting Marcus's troubled expression. I'm thinking this isn't over, Marcus replied. Someone's still moving pieces on the board. The money? Always follow the money, Marcus confirmed. $30 million doesn't just sit in accounts waiting to be found. Someone else knows about it. Someone with resources to hire Mercer. One of Diaz's husband's families? Possibly. Marcus stood, grabbing his jacket. I need to talk to Caroline Winters again. As he headed for the door, Rodriguez called after him. You know the captain wants this case closed, right? It's been all over the news. The department needs the win. It's not a win if we haven't found the whole truth, Marcus replied. And right now, I think we're still several moves behind. The minimum security facility where Caroline Winters had been transferred was more reminiscent of a community college campus than a prison. Located in rural Pennsylvania, it housed nonviolent offenders in dormitory-style buildings surrounded by well-maintained grounds. Caroline met Marcus in a private interview room, looking remarkably composed in her standard-issue jumpsuit. Prison had not diminished her natural elegance. Detective Silva, she greeted him. What an unexpected pleasure. I thought our business was concluded. Marcus placed a folder on the table between them. Alessandra Diaz received a visitor yesterday, James Mercer, attorney specializing in international finance and asset recovery. If Caroline was surprised by this information, she hid it well. And this concerns me because I think we're still missing pieces of this puzzle. The offshore accounts, the money. There's another player involved, isn't there? Caroline's smile was measured. Detective, I've cooperated fully with the investigation. I've provided all account information, testified against Officer Jenkins and his associates, and agreed to testify against Diaz when her case goes to trial. What more could you possibly want? The truth, Marcus said simply. The complete truth. For several seconds, Caroline studied him, as if assessing whether he was worth the effort of further deception. Finally, she sighed. You're quite persistent, Detective. It's an admirable quality, if somewhat inconvenient. She leaned forward slightly. What if I told you that the $30 million you've traced is just the tip of the iceberg? I'd say that fits with my suspicions. The actual amount is closer to $120 million, Caroline continued. Most of it belonging to the families of Diaz's husbands, money she stole from them through various means before and after their deaths. Marcus nodded slowly. And you helped her hide it? Not exactly. I found it. When I was creating my own offshore network, I discovered accounts Diaz had established years earlier. I redirected some of those funds into my own system. You stole from a thief. I prefer to think of it as unauthorized wealth redistribution, Caroline replied with a hint of a smile. Diaz didn't discover the connection until we met at Eastwood. By then, I had already set up the arrangement with Emily. But there's more, Marcus prompted, sensing she was still withholding information. Caroline hesitated, then nodded. The Hargrove family, relatives of Diaz's second husband, have been searching for their stolen inheritance for years. They hired private investigators, forensic accountants, even former FBI agents. About a month ago, they found a connection to my case, and they reached out to you through an intermediary. They offered me a deal, help them recover their family's stolen funds, and they would provide resources for my eventual release. Legal support, character witnesses, even employment opportunities. So, when Diaz escaped and kidnapped you, it was inconvenient timing, Caroline admitted. I was already negotiating with the Hargroves. Diaz's escape complicated matters significantly. Marcus leaned back, processing this new information. The lawyer who visited Diaz, Mercer, he represents the Hargrove family? Yes, they're offering Diaz a similar deal. Return their portion of the funds, testify about where the rest is hidden, and they'll support a sentence reduction. Playing both sides, Marcus noted. Clever. The Hargroves aren't interested in justice, Detective. They want their money back. They don't particularly care who helps them get it. And what about you? What do you want, Caroline? For the first time, her composed facade showed a crack, a glimpse of genuine emotion. I want what everyone wants, a second chance, a way to repair some of the damage I've caused. By returning stolen money to a wealthy family in exchange for preferential treatment. Marcus couldn't keep the skepticism from his voice. By doing what I can with what I have, from where I am, Caroline replied evenly. We can't all be heroes, Detective. Some of us are just trying to find our way back from bad decisions. Marcus gathered his notes, considering his next steps. I'll need all the information you have on the Hargrove family and their representatives. All communications, all deals offered. And in return, I'll recommend to the DA that your cooperation be taken into account at your sentencing review. Caroline nodded slowly. Fair enough. There's a safety deposit box at First National Bank downtown. Box 723. Emily has the key. Inside, you'll find everything I've gathered on the Hargroves, Diaz's financial network, and several other parties who have been circling this money for years. As Marcus stood to leave, Caroline added, One more thing, Detective. Be careful with this information. There are powerful people involved who prefer to remain in the shadows, the kind of people who can make problems disappear, including inconvenient police detectives. Is that a threat, Ms. Winters? A warning from someone who's learned the hard way what happens when you swim with sharks. Her eyes held his. "Not everyone in this story is as visible as Diaz, my sister, and me. Remember that." Back at the precinct, Marcus obtained a warrant for the safety deposit box. Inside, he found exactly what Caroline had promised: detailed records of communications with the Hargrove family, financial documents tracing Diaz's complex money laundering operation, and evidence implicating several other parties, including a judge who had presided over one of Diaz's husband's probate cases and a bank executive who had facilitated the initial transfers. "This goes deeper than we thought," Rodriguez observed as they reviewed the documents. "How do you want to proceed?" "Carefully," Marcus replied, remembering Caroline's warning. "We bring in the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Make sure everything is by the book and visible. No quiet deals, no private arrangements. The captain won't like it. He was hoping to wrap this up quickly, get the department some positive press after the Eastwood scandal. Some things are more important than press conferences," Marcus said firmly. 3 days later, arrests were made simultaneously in 4 states. The judge, the banker, 2 attorneys, and a private investigator who had been helping hide the money. All taken into custody based on evidence from Caroline's safety deposit box. The Hargrove family publicly disavowed any knowledge of illegal activities, claiming they had simply been trying to recover stolen assets through legitimate means. Their attorney, James Mercer, resigned abruptly and left the country for an extended vacation in a non-extradition country. As for Alessandra Diaz, she was convicted on all counts related to her escape and received an additional 20 years added to her existing life sentence. Caroline Winter's cooperation resulted in a reduced sentence with possibility of parole in 7 years. Emily Winters, facing charges of her own for financial crimes, accepted a plea deal in exchange for helping authorities recover the remaining hidden funds. 1 month after the case officially closed, Marcus stood on the Penn's Landing waterfront, watching the sunrise over the Delaware River. The same view Diaz had mentioned wanting to see once she had the money. "Penny, for your thoughts," came a voice behind him. Marcus turned to find Captain Reynolds, coffee in hand. "Just reflecting on the case," Marcus replied. "So many layers of deception, so many people willing to betray each other for money." "That's human nature for you," Reynolds said with a shrug. "Money makes people do crazy things." "Not everyone," Marcus countered. "Some people still choose to do the right thing, even when it's hard." "Like you, turning down the commendation ceremony?" Reynolds asked with a knowing look. The mayor was disappointed. He wanted to shake the hand of Philadelphia's hero detective. Marcus smiled faintly. "I'm not comfortable being held up as a hero for just doing my job. Besides, it was a team effort." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching the early morning light play across the water. "What will you do now?" Reynolds asked finally. "The FBI was impressed with your work. They mentioned potential openings in their Financial Crimes Division." "I'm where I need to be," Marcus replied. "There are plenty more cases waiting on my desk, more truths to uncover." As they turned to leave, Marcus cast one final glance at the water. Somewhere out there, beyond the horizon, millions of dollars still sat in hidden accounts, waiting to be found. Money that had driven good people to do terrible things and corrupt people to do worse. But that was the nature of the job, finding the truth amid the lies, bringing light to the shadows, and maybe, just maybe, helping people find their way back from bad decisions. Not everyone could be a hero, but sometimes doing your job was enough. The end.